Well, good evening, everyone. Uh, this is a rather auspicious occasion uh, that we are discussing tonight, and if you'll excuse me, I'm trying to get a call-in set up. So just bear with me for a minute. Um, Fireman John wants to call me. He says he has information regarding what has happened, and I want to try and get him on the line. I live in an area where the cell phone doesn't work that well, so I'm going to see if I can get him again. So just bear with me. And while I'm doing that, I do want to remind everybody that what has happened uh, is that there has been a murder, and uh, Chris Hallett is deceased. Um, okay, I'm going to reply here. Send John my cell phone number that I use. Um, as you may know, I tried to do this with Skype um, a while back, and it didn't work out. And I had not expected to be taking a call tonight, um, but he volunteered to call in and give me what information he has about the case. So what I'm doing now is I'm having to go down through and about phone. Okay. So I'm going to send him a reply real quick. Oops. Did that wrong. And we'll see if this works out. This is the old put the cell phone on speaker type thing. If he is able to get in, we'll see how this works. Let me get this out of the way. And hello, everybody that is calling in. This is a developing story. I don't have virtually any information. I got wind of this basically through people that contacted me on Twitter and elsewhere and told me what happened, or that Chris Hallett had been murdered. I then called the Marion County Sheriff's Office to get information, and the first call they told me that they were still investigating, and then see if I reply to this properly. Yeah. John, you should be getting my cell phone number. So I hope that got sent through. We'll just play it by ear. I don't know if the call's going to go through or not. Basically what happened is that at 9 p.m. last night, Chris Hallett was murdered. And that's, that's the facts so far. Now, it's a suspect has been captured in the state of Georgia, and that person is Neely Blanchard. Now, there's a couple things about Neely Blanchard that people might remember. First of all, Neely was probably one of the closest people to Chris Hallett on E-Clause. If you go over to her, or if you go over to E-Clause, you will note that Neely made posts on behalf of Neely, on behalf of East Clause. She was considered very close to Chris Hallett. So I am puzzled as to why she is accused of murdering him. And unfortunately, I don't have a lot of details. Now, Fireman John seems okay. I'm gonna put the area code here. Um, I don't know what happened to the message, but Orlando is this area code, so give that a shot. Uh, but anyway, I was surprised to learn that this had happened. Now, a little background is, some of you may. Okay, here we go. Let's see what happens. Okay, John, can you hear me?
Yeah, Mark.
Okay, you are on the air. That's okay, correct?
That's okay.
Okay, everybody, I have Fireman John on the line here, and I'm just going to let you kind of take the narrative, John, and fill us in on exactly what the heck happened and what information that you have.
Well, starting from the beginning, I met Neely through Facebook when we were doing the Traffic Report show, which was a show about child trafficking, and we had survivors on there and people that had issues with DCF, and that's what she was. And she had told me her whole story from day one, and it seemed like she had a case, and we were going to bring her on the show and try to get her a real attorney and real help and resolving the child custody. And right around that time, she was in touch, I believe, with Pendergrass, and at least, if not both of Pendergrass and Hallett. And they told her, and this is word for word what she told me, and I really didn't know at the time, who they were or what they did. But she said there was a way through Congress that she could get some help in the case. And that sounded good. And she didn't want to go on the show. She postponed it. And, I still told her that, the offer still stands. We know some attorneys, and we have a lot of resources, and we're willing to help you if it sounds like you have a real case. And they apparently, I don't know if they talked her out of it, or she just never did come on the show. But she did. We stayed in touch through Facebook, and she sent me with some of this paperwork, which I didn't really understand. And but it looked like she was going to try to go through the United States Congress to get some assistance in this. And I thought, well, if that's possible, that sounds reasonable, at that time. But we never. Then, as we started to learn more down the road, with when the Field McConnell stuff happened, and we were getting, I started to watch, what E-Clause was doing, and it sounded like, they were just, sovereign citizen, common law people, which does exist, and the sad part is they do have a point in a lot of the stuff that they say in their research. The only problem is the existing law is not common law. So if you go against the existing law, you get people arrested. And Neely took their advice, and I think through their advice, she ended up getting arrested a couple of times, most recently in March, and charged with kidnapping. And, I actually attempted to make contact with her. And I think I actually chatted with her on one of their live streams and asked her to call me, because obviously she was in need of real legal help, and things were going bad for her. And I never did get a response. And she bought, everything that they told her.
Mm-hmm.
The rest, she showed up with this paperwork that they drew up, and and then through all these circles, I became aware of Phil McConnell, Timothy Holmseth. I started following what you do, and it was this big web of people that were just out of their minds, and putting forth information, with AvCog, that case, and that I forget her name, but the woman in Alabama, I think. They were all involved with that, and they were
Yeah, that
highly
would be
involved.
Sarah Dunklin.
So yeah, Sarah Dunklin, and I know that ABCUG went to them and went to Hallett in Ocala while that she was on the run for her legal charges, and I think
Mm-hmm.
she was getting the same advice. And apparently, you know, it has become too much for Neely. She is. I talked to the Lowndes County Jail this evening. She is in the Lowndes County Jail.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to attempt. You can only send a postcard there.
Yeah, that's generally the case.
To them, but I'm going to try to do that, and with my phone number, and I still we haven't been doing the traffic report in quite a while, but
Mm-hmm.
I still know a lot, like real private investigators, real attorneys, Jared Beck and Elizabeth Beck being one of them who sued the DNC over the Bernie Sanders thing. But we had a lot of contacts,
Mm-hmm.
and
Well, let me ask you this, John. Do you have any idea what caused the shooting specifically? Is there something that triggered her, or was there
well,
something that happened?
I would think the fact that she's facing, I think, 3 new felonies, and she'll probably never see their children again.
Yeah, that's correct.
Miko he's talking to somebody, I don't really know who they are, but Miko Hayes, I guess, over on Discussed, and they're and I don't want to. Oh.
Well, no, I understand you probably don't want to speculate,
Yeah,
and
I
I'm not
don't
going to
want to
do that
speculate.
either. I mean, there's plenty of speculating that could be done, because
Yeah.
I'm going to go up to Marion County on Thursday and talk to the PIO up there and see what I can find out, and see if I can get information on what the process is going to be as far as extradition to get her back to Florida.
Yeah.
Is she going to fight extradition, or is she going to waive her extradition rights and come back to Florida? This is going to be a
Well,
big factor as to how this progresses.
apparently, and I found this out because I'm friends with Neely on Facebook. Apparently, there was another woman, and it's on Neely's Facebook page, and I think who has a child that was at the residence when this happened,
Hmm.
and she's saying that she's going to release a statement, and the family's going to release some kind of statement. But yeah, that's all on Neely's Facebook page.
Yeah, I've been given information on that as well. There's a couple of there was a exchange between the principals and a person by the last James Williams. I don't know who that is exactly, but
Yeah,
apparently that conversation is out.
I looked that guy up, and that's a sock account, and he's associated with some a Facebook page that looks like it's some sort of religious type deal where they're a news service, and that Williams guy is a very suspect. And I looked at that account, and it's got a few posts on it. It's not a real Facebook account, but he is attached to I think it's called PNP News, Pulpit and Press, something like that. But that guy seems like a loose cannon.
Yeah, well, people should not be contacting anyone related to the incident right now.
Or giving names
Yeah.
of any of the witnesses that are involved.
Correct.
And like I said, all I'm going to do is send her a postcard with my telephone number and just an offer of help if she can get a call out and try to like we were going to do. And this was years ago, and I'm sick about this, Mark. I'm really upset.
Well, I am too, because this is something I was afraid might happen. Um, when you get involved in what is essentially a domestic issue, the emotions are going to fly. Now, this may or may not be related to her case. It's hard to tell, because this is where we're going to have to wait for the investigation to go forward and for statements to come out from reliable sources as to what exactly happened here. Uh, this is probably going to take some time to get sorted out and to allow law enforcement to release what information they're willing to release that's not going to screw up the case.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I would. The fact of the matter, I'm just looking at the. Hi guys, I'm looking at the chat room. I'm multitasking.
Yeah, I do the same thing, and I get off track when I do that.
You've got to, and I see names going up in the chat room, and I would really ask people not to post any names. These people are witnesses. They've been through a traumatic event, and just there's no reason to do that. The legal process will take its course, and Neely's in need of real legal help. The family of Chris Hallett is going to be devastated by this. I just dealing with facts. I know they were giving her legal advice that she acted upon, and it ended up getting her charged with felonies. And this last round of felonies looked like she would probably never see those children again. So that would be a reasonable motive.
Yeah, that's a possibility. That was my first thought. And again, I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. We could speculate until we're blue in the face, but we're really not going to know what's going on until things official. But I more or less warned for the past 2 years that something was going to break with this group, because they're messing around with the custody battles of women in desperate situations. And in each and every case that E-Clause and the PPTF and all these people have gotten involved in, they've made the situation worse. We have this woman out in Utah. I don't know if she's been arrested yet, but she's in the same boat. She's facing multiple felonies, as is her mother and whoever this woman was that was with her. They're in for serious problems. Abzug probably isn't going to see her children again because of this. And now we have someone facing, at a minimum, second-degree murder charges, depending on what comes out of the investigation.
Yeah, what I can't get out of my head, Mark, is what would have happened with Neely if she'd have come on the show and we would have got her competent legal help. She'd probably be with her kids or have a much better arrangement now.
You need to, as bad as the system might be, I mean, yes, there are problems with CPS. I personally know someone here in Florida who went to jail over this. And you need people that are experts in the field. These half-cocked people that give out the silly legal advice and put documents out there that really don't mean anything have ruined the lives of I don't know how many people. And this is just the icing on the cake. This is a tragic situation. A man has lost his life because he got involved in this, and there's no telling what caused all this, but this is just the result of getting involved in something you had no business getting involved in.
Yeah, and this is and that's our opinion, but I think it's a reasonable opinion. But Levi was asking in the chat room, what Kirk's reaction was. I'm sure he had to change his underwear, and I'm pretty sure from what Neely told me, Kirk was like the main one that kind of, she started watching Kirk's Law Corner, and that's how they got involved. She got involved with them, and the next thing we knew, she had postponed being on the show, and that she was going to take this route through Congress. And then even like 6 months later, I remember she sent me this paperwork, and I couldn't make head nor tail of it, but it looked like, and she thought that what they had done through Congress was going to get, a favorable result in the DCF case, and that obviously never happened. And the next thing, I heard, she was getting arrested the first time, and I was like, oh my God, and I reached out to her then,
Mm-hmm.
and really, she was still totally sold on her license plate had E-clause on it, for God's sake,
Right. That's the one thing that surprised me about this, because she was probably the closest friend, if you could call her that, and most loyal person to Chris Hallett there was. She's picture after picture of her with a license plate. She had the children in question in front of a E-clause sign, and she was everything E-clause. And then, when I heard about this, I was flabbergasted. I said, you're kidding, right? This is a joke. And it took calling the Marion County Sheriff's Office to confirm that that's exactly what had happened. It's astonishing that this happened, but in the end, I'm not really surprised, because these people are treading on dangerous waters getting involved in these cases.
Yeah, and our good friend, the conspiracy theorist, can I say his name?
Yeah, because you're
Timothy Charles Homestead. I mean, these guys were up to their neck in that case that he had in Minnesota, and then they had a falling out. They were all best buddies with Phil McConnell, who's cooling his heels on an ankle monitor, in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it just was just this spider web of insanity. And you can't mess with people's freedom, and advise them to do things, and then when they don't pan out and they end up going to jail and
Mm-hmm.
Paying with maybe never seeing their children again. And Tim's case, unfortunately it was just a misdemeanor warrant. But
yeah.
This whole group, and you've known them way longer than I've been aware of them. You've had experience with them for.
Well, Tim is the one I've had the most experience with, and he's gone into dangerous territory for a decade now, and he's destroyed every life he's come in contact with, and now he is ever so remotely involved in what happened last night, because he's part of this PPTF. Hallett's part of it. Everybody, and even she is part of it. So, she snapped or something happened. Because I've heard too many different stories, and it's one of these things where we really got to wait until the facts come out as to exactly what happened and why she shot him. Was it self-defense? Did she get angry and just snap, or what the heck happened?
Yeah. I just, and she really was the interactions that I had with her, we talked on the phone, and she seemed like a very nice person that had gotten into some bad circumstances and had a real case in Florida, but it just kind of mushroomed out of that, and I think she just got to some point dealing with the system that she was willing to take any other way that was going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately that's who she got hooked up with it. And we know that Abcug went down while on the run from a warrant, went down to Christopher Hallett's house
Mm-hmm.
and paid them money. Alex was saying this in the chat room, it's for money, yeah. And she paid them some fee that had been given to her by the Phil McConnell people. She had, I don't know, $5,000 or whatever it was, and she paid part of that to Hallett for some more useless paperwork, that she was going to use in her case. And of course, hey Kennedy, I'm just watching these people come in the chat room. You got a great chat room, Mark. But I mean, what? Abcug's behind bars now, but who's to say when she figured out that she was being given and this is my opinion, but what they're doing is criminal. You know,
Well, they are under investigation. You know, that's one of the reasons I went to Minneapolis. They are under investigation by the authorities for a number of things. I can't completely talk about it, but it does have to do specifically with Cynthia Abzug. And this particular case, as a matter of fact, because it involves uh, kidnapping of minors, one across state lines and the other not. And then now there's possibly going to be this case in Utah. But now that this has escalated into a homicide, uh, everybody's going to get, all the authorities are going to get involved. The FBI in Minneapolis is probably going to
oh my
start
God,
chatting
yeah,
about it.
yeah, yeah. Their phones are ringing off the hook right now. I mean, this is, and that's what you've been saying all along, and everybody that I know that talks about it, this is serious. I mean, they were involved, and Kirk still is. They do this show, you know, twice, 3 times a week,
Mm-hmm.
and they're still pushing this, you know, whatever legal process that they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and it apparently is dangerous, you know.
Well, they've
And
gone way, way, way over the line, and uh, I think E-Claus's future is just coming to an abrupt halt because without Chris Hallett, I don't see how Kirk can continue. I think he's basically just going to fade into the woodwork. And as this case starts to open up and the authorities begin to find out the dynamics of everything, and depending on what happened in that house, a lot of people are going to find themselves getting unwanted attention. And, you know, Kirk Pendergrass, Tim Holmseth, Randy, and the whole bunch of them are going to wind up having to answer questions they don't want to answer.
yeah, well, there's nothing that'll accelerate that. And I think, and I get really angry that investigation didn't, if that investigation worked properly, you know, he might not have been around to get murdered. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just,
You know, it's unfortunate. The government is so damn slow with what they do because I've been needling these people for months. I said, you guys got to move on this before something bad happens. And now it has. They were warned. Everybody was warned that this was going in a bad direction. I did not expect someone to get killed over this, but it's happened, and now a lot of lives are going to be destroyed uh,
yeah, yeah,
because of this nonsense.
yeah. And I mean, these, and I really, and, you know, of course, I'm upset that anybody gets murdered. You know, the human life is precious. But when those two were doing what they were doing during the middle of COVID and everything, and asking people for donations, and you know, I would go into their chat room
Mm-hmm.
and you know, let them know how I felt, and they you know, they treated it as a big joke. But you know,
Well, greed does things to people.
yeah, I mean, and that's what it, you know, people in the chat room. I think anybody with a brain knows that you know, this is all fee driven, you know, and all the money that got thrown around in the Abzug case, you know, I mean, where was that coming from? You know, probably GoFundMe accounts. Good old Jimmy and his.
Well, you know, you have to wonder, John, because there is a tremendous amount of money involved. I mean, if you do forensic accounting, we're talking about more money than you would get off a GoFundMe or something. These people are getting money from an outside source, and it's in the tens of thousands of dollars. And you know, you have to wonder what the motive is of the people giving all this money to this so-called underground railroad, and we've got people going around giving out diplomatic passports and paying people to go clear across the country on a sightseeing trip, and then wind up 100 miles south of Canada before they get arrested. It's really a complicated situation that's going on.
Alexandria just said in the chat room that Brandy has blood on their hands, and they do.
Yeah, they
And
definitely do, because they're the
and
ones that started all this.
Timmy too. There's a picture of him, Phil McConnell, and Cynthia Abcos posing in front of a car when I think she was a fugitive from justice during that time.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
That
There were
was the
two
studio.
fugitives. Yeah, he's a BS fugitive from justice with a misdemeanor.
Mm-hmm.
She had felonies, but I'm telling you what, if this FBI investigation doesn't crank in a high gear now, and they're all over the internet. They come in here and they post things and they delete them like they disappear. That they're just so dumb, and all the electronic evidence is there. And if they're connected with this, and it seems like they are, I would hope that anybody that has criminal involvement in any of these cases, gets prosecuted, because the garbage that they've put on the internet, the straight out lies, Pentagon pedophile task force, and all these people that just want to do the right thing. I think that's most of their audience. They want to help children, and you've got these guys, making up, things that don't exist
Mm-hmm.
to get donations, and that's my opinion. But there, like you said, you get the FBI has forensic accountants and access to all their electronic communications, and there, to me, I would think it's a huge RICO case.
Well, it's a combination of RICO, it's wire fraud, it's impersonating government officials, misrepresenting yourself as a government agent. There's any number of charges that are being done.
Maybe Levi can get Nancy Grace to
well, it's to a point now where this is something that Nancy Grace just might well be interested in, because the plot line is so out there.
Yeah,
I mean, we got this cyber citizen thing going on.
Yeah, the QAnons and everything.
Yeah, they're saying that Kirk Pendergrass is live.
I'm
curious.
Kirk's live now. Wow.
I'm curious as to what he's going to say about this, but
now that's to me, that's pretty dumb. Other than if he goes on to say, condolences to Chris.
That's the only thing I recommend he do right now. He needs to shut up. Say a memorial to Chris, and then shut down, and don't get into any of these theories or blame or anything like that, or he's just going to find himself in legal quicksand if he gets too deeply involved. Because this is when you get into a homicide case, it's time to shut up and lawyer up. Because this is really serious business.
I think if people, if anybody has access to legal help for Neely, because I have seen the progression of where she was and where she went, and I think in a lot of ways she's a victim of this stuff that E-Clause was putting out, and now she'll probably never see her kids anyway, but she's definitely in need of a lawyer,
well, she's going to have to probably get a public defender down here. Now, what's rather interesting, and I would be curious if you take the case, is one of the chief counsel who represented Casey Anthony lives in Ocala. And so this is the kind of case he gets involved in, even if it turns out to be a public defender situation. Because that's what wound up happening to Casey Anthony. The state of Florida paid a majority of their legal fees because she was qualified for it.
Well, that's, somehow I don't think Neely's going to get to what Casey Anthony got, But,
yeah, more than likely not.
I'm hoping there's some lawyer that understands some of this that would help her out, because I really and that's not excusing anything that she's done, but she is entitled to legal representation.
Well, the first thing that has to happen is we need to find out, the public does anyway, exactly what happened. What led up to all of this.
Well, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna reach. Don't tell your side of the story right now.
No,
And
she needs to clam up, um,
yeah,
and
yeah,
just
yeah.
let it
I'm
come
not.
out through the attorney
Yeah,
um, as best she can. Because if she starts going around doing what Absug did when she got into her situation, she's just going to make it that much worse. Because the information regarding the case is going to come out anyway.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
I'm going to start the FOIA paperwork tomorrow, and so I'll be getting whatever the state decides to release over the next couple days or week or what have you,
Yeah.
depending on how fast this goes.
Yeah, apparently Catherine Grace, she was on traffic report for quite a while. I'm very
Hmm.
fond of Catherine. Um, but yeah, she's saying witnesses. Yeah, yeah, there was a woman and I believe a child at that residence when the shooting took place.
Yeah, I understand that one woman was fairly close to Hallett. I'm not going to say on the air what I was told, but there was someone there that had a close relationship with Hallett, um, and then I guess the mother, because he lived with his mother the last I knew. So the mother is probably going to be extremely upset. She's elderly.
Yeah, yeah, and well, yeah, and if that's the case, she was there, but the only I only know of one person that said they were there,
Hmm.
and I believe she said there was a child there also. So,
Yeah.
and that they're witnesses, and I don't know what she says they're going to release a statement of some kind. So
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
see.
So I just have to wait until the statement comes out and see if that gives any light to what happened here. But I think that people are learning lessons too late, and it sounds by the way Kirk Pendergrass is talking that he hasn't learned his lesson yet. Um, that this is a very serious matter. It's far more serious than I ever expected it to be, and there's
Yeah,
going to be a lot
they're
of
saying
lives
Neely is
affected
a
by
victim,
this.
and I don't. When I'm saying that, I think she's a victim of using faulty advice. What she did is inexcusable, and I don't know all the details of her case. And I've always my only advice to her was to get a real lawyer,
Hmm.
get the real evidence, and have it litigated. But I think she was a victim of that legal gibberish that they had. Were putting out, and then not only her, I think Abzug was a victim of that, and it doesn't. You break the law, you pay the price.
Yeah, these women were the victims of desperation. They got desperate, and they allowed this desperation to cloud their judgment. They got mixed up with
Yeah,
individuals with questionable motives, and now a life has been lost
yeah, and
as a result.
this is just my opinion, but it seems the pattern that I saw in this was um, their clients were oh searching for the word, they were under duress.
Hmm.
All those clients, they were vulnerable. Let's put it
Yeah, well,
that way.
this is the desperation. You get into a mother losing custody of a child is an extremely stressful situation. Uh, and so it doesn't take much. And she was out there searching for someone to shoulder the problem for her, and she just fell into a bad situation that could have been prevented. And the people she got involved with were thoughtless enough not to understand the danger of what they were doing, and this is the net result. And
Yeah, yeah.
she's
Um,
going to have to answer in some way for what happened, depending on what comes out in the investigation.
yeah.
You know,
Well,
it
like my Scottish mother used to say, it'll all come out in the wash.
yes, it definitely will.
But I just thoughts and prayers are with both of their families, because
Hmm.
this is horrible, horrible. on all sorts of levels. And I did know her on a personal level, and like I said, I don't. She's committed crimes. Our advice was to work through the system with competent legal advice, and I'm not excusing. Everybody has a choice, but I also say that she was under duress, wanting to have custody of her children, and was vulnerable to and it seems like at least Cynthia Abcug was also, so that sounds like a pattern to me, and at any rate, that advice should not have been going out. They should have been involved in these cases, and I think, to me, when kids are getting kidnapped and they're showing, E-Clause paperwork, that pretty much tells you that there's a problem there, and that should be dealt with, and it's really a separate issue from what Neely, her actions have been. And I'm just, knowing her as a person, and any person and any human being, this is just, a tragedy on every level. And for those children, for Neely's family, for Chris's family, for the people that witnessed this, I mean, it's just a mess. But this kind of crap needs to stop too. I'm strongly of that opinion that if you want to change the legal system, go out and do that. But don't provide people with false hope and give them legal paperwork that's basically worthless, and charge them money for it. That's just despicable, in my opinion. And these are all. Okay.
Well, it is. This is the worst. This is the worst case scenario in all of this, that somebody's life was lost because of ridiculous, stupid advice by people that, regardless of what happened in this specific situation, they need to be held accountable. Somebody has to go to jail for this, because this is beyond the pale. I mean, there are people all over the country that have had their lives ruined by the PPTF and these actions of these people, and something has to put a stop to this nonsense.
Yeah, and I agree, and I find it's curious that they're all linked together. You've got pictures of Timothy Holmseth with Cindy Abcug and Phil McConnell, and they were hanging out in Field's house with Kirk Pendergrass, so that the associations are all there, and that, I don't, what they talked about, what they did, I don't know the details of that, but a good investigation sure as hell needs to get done, and if there's any collusion in any of these crimes, they need to be charged as such, and the sooner the better.
Well, I think from the conversation I had this afternoon, I think things are going to get picked up quite a bit, because now that there's a homicide involved in this, there's going to be a new intensity with the investigations that have been going up to this point. And I have contacted some other people who may do a follow-up on this as far as reporting it in the media.
Yeah, and I think there's been, that Karen put that in the chat room, these people reported 2 years ago. Yeah, they've been reported many, 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 many times by many people. And they still have a YouTube platform. They were still, doing their horrible PowerPoints, or Kirk was doing them a week ago, or maybe tonight. I don't know. Maybe he'll not do the PowerPoint tonight. But
well, I don't know what he's going to do, because I haven't tuned. I'm surprised he went on the air, but he's not the brightest bulb in the room, so I guess he's going to have to say something. So it's going to be curious to see the replay of that one.
And that's, I think he, that was his partner. and on some weird level, they believed in what they're doing. That's what I can't understand. But it's a tragedy all around for everybody involved. And that's what it sounds like, because Abcug's involved. She was with Field McConnell. Timothy Holmseth was hanging out with them. Kirk Pendergrass was hanging out at Field's house with all them. And as far as I know, that medical student in Colorado said they visited Hallett, and he was paid money for some more useless legal paperwork that Cynthia was going to use to try to get her kids back. So it's a big mess, and hopefully law enforcement will do their job.
Yeah, it takes a kick in the pants like this to do it. It's too bad a life had to be sacrificed, but if it finally brings about something.
I couldn't believe it. I saw somebody posted on that video, the drive-a-thon, I think, that Miko had reported that, and I was like, no, that just can't be. And I went over there, and he didn't really have a whole lot of concrete information. He was talking to sources, he believed, and it sounded credible. But and I Googled Chris Hallett and murder, and I found nothing on Google. My wife found that the news story, and I was like, oh my God, this actually happened. And like I said, thanks for letting me vent a little bit, Mark, because I'm physically ill by the whole thing. One life, many lives are ruined at this moment, and I think what they were doing, played, and this is just my opinion, but what they were doing played a role in what happened. And like I said, I don't know that, and hopefully it'll come out in the investigation.
Yeah, because, it just seems somebody snapped. And this is the net result. Either she snapped or he snapped and she had to defend herself, or, this could have gone any 9,000 different directions. So it's going to have to wait for the facts to come out to see specifically what happened and why.
Alex said she emailed the state attorney and told him he didn't have to investigate Chris Hallett now, since he refused to, and his office would be prosecuting his murder. Wow, there's some irony.
Yeah.
There's some, and like I said, there's some very smart, competent people that have reported, these guys again and again and again, and to YouTube too. And YouTube has given them a platform. They started taking the Q platform away, and you've got. And like I said, Field's only been charged with a crime. He hasn't been found guilty, but you've got a bunch of people, the Olson guy, good vibes on there, just, rah-rahing for him. And it's insane. It's like, it's just crazy. So,
well,
hopefully,
one day at a time, I guess it's going to give me another trial to cover, because I'm an hour and a half from the crime scene, and I will be covering this case from gavel to gavel.
Yeah. Well, I just hope there's some kind of good comes out of this, because right now it just looks like everybody loses.
Yeah, everybody's going to lose in the end, no matter what. Lives are destroyed. Families are destroyed, and it's created the worst possible mess that you could think of in this situation.
Yeah, and that's what, you've said it, I've heard a lot of people say it, somebody is going to slander, harassment, and, that's why I support you, And,
well, I'm just another pebble on the beach. I'm not a news organization in that sense of the word. I'm a retired truck driver that does this simply because I've had experience with this kind of a situation, specifically with Holmseth and others, who, because of the way the media is on the internet, they have a god-awful amount of power, but they don't have the responsibility to use it properly. And this is what causes these kinds of situations.
Well, and don't be modest. You were a trendsetter. You were on the cutting edge. You're out there live streaming the Kaylee Anthony trial. When no, I mean, it's still. I don't think I even knew what the internet was when you were out there. I was talking to my wife about this. She was at, she doesn't follow a lot of this too closely, but she was asking about you, and I said, yeah, Mert was out there with a van and camera equipment live streaming. When nobody knew what a live stream was.
Yeah, it was. That has been my mantra for years. Is I have been on the leading edge of technology. That's my big thing, and that's the reason originally for the YouTube channel was technology. And I cross-purpose things. I took basically closed-circuit TV equipment and adapted it through a laptop and a cellular modem using a live truck that I brought back off lease, because that's what I used to do. I used to engineer, design, and lease out live trucks to third parties. And when one came in off of lease, I decided, well, I'm going to repurpose the damn thing, and the Casey Anthony was the net result of it.
Dodger is keeping up with Kirk's live stream and says he's bagging on Miko now. That really, that's all. Your partner just got shot, murdered. And that's all you got to do is try to discredit Miko, who basically just reported the truth and with sources that he said were unconfirmed. So yeah, Kirk's doing what he normally does, is, talk crap.
Yeah, he's not. I'm just. That's astonishment in itself. He should have gone on the air, made a brief statement, and gone back off the air again. If Field was truly, if Chris was truly his friend, instead of going on this rant, calling people out that simply is reporting something that happened. The man is shot, he's dead, he's in the news, and that's that. It's not Miko's fault that it happened. Miko's just reporting what happened.
Yeah, I never would have known about it. And I forget, one of your followers, posted that on one of your videos.
Yeah, I found out about it through some of the people that are subscribed to my channel. Looks like now he's getting into other junk. But I found out about it through other people because I was out of the state of Florida when this broke. I had no. Now I'm subscribed to the various departments, so I had seen that a shooting had happened, but I did not put two and two together because there were two of them on the same day. And then all of a sudden somebody came in this afternoon and said, well, it was, Chris that got shot. And I'm going, what?
Yeah,
that's exactly what I said. What? And, and then all of a sudden I'm starting to get direct messages and so on and so forth, and the first thing I did was get on the phone with Marion County to find out just what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
And, within 4 minutes of me calling them, they identified Chris as the victim. And so now it goes from there.
Well, yeah, I'm still really in shock, you just really... And that's what it seems to be. That's what really bothers me too. Is it seems like this is some kind of game to them. The whole the legal advice and the system and their little show 3 times a week. That it's some. I don't know if they're like mentally ill or what.
Well, they, for whatever reason, they have gone down this theory on the legal take that they have on things. Now, it's one thing to sit there and have opinions about the legal system and do all this stuff, but when you start getting people involved, innocent people, and giving them what now turns out to be deadly advice, the consequences are there. They were giving people extremely bad advice, and they ruined not only Absug's life and the woman out in Utah, they ruined Neely's life. And, you know, Chris has paid for it with his life. And, as this stuff sets in over the coming weeks and months, uh, a lot of people are going to be affected for the rest of their lives because of what happened tonight.
Yeah, and Dodger said Kirk needs to take the night off. Yeah, that's an understatement. And a shout out to Dodger, all the work he does trying to expose these grifters, and has done some great work there.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine, no, they're opportunistic criminals. That's the way I view them, and I think that's why everybody was reporting them, because we all viewed what they were doing as a crime, and apparently even the law enforcement, if they're doing an investigation, at least possibly views it as a crime, and they've just been pretty slow as to shut them down.
Yeah, well, that's generally the way it is. It's kind of slow on the take, but it's like a snowball going downhill. Eventually, it gets big enough to have an impact, and that's what's going to happen here, because this has gotten to a point where it's severe enough that the authorities are going to have to step in and do something.
I just got banned from Kirk's Law Corner. I've been banned for a few times, Levi. You don't want to challenge him in any way. He's another one of these, ego-driven, in my opinion, narcissists that any challenge to anything that he's saying is just,
Well, he's going to find out, because his name is on paperwork as a co-owner of E-Clause, as they go into trying to figure out, the backstory to all this. Is all going to come out.
And Neely has no incentive not to tell the whole truth at this point, so.
Yeah, well, she may, depending on the circumstances, may try to do some kind of a plea deal and say, I've got information about kidnappings and so forth that you might be able to use, so it could mitigate me. And, it may or may not be effective enough. I mean, this is a pretty serious charge she's facing, so I don't know what she could offer that would mitigate anything. She's more than likely it's going to be second degree. I don't think it's going to be first degree premeditated. I think it's going to be a crime of passion and be hit with second degree. So it's a life sentence.
Well, what they got in Florida too, 10-20 life. So.
Oh, this is murder in the commission of a felony. She will serve.
But you got the handgun thing.
Yeah, well, that's
Florida,
it. It's the 3-point rule. The use of a firearm in the commission of a felony, murder in the commission of a felony.
That's life.
That's it's a capital crime. It's life. The worst is life without parole, or life with parole possibility, and the 2/3 rule, which is 66% of your sentence served. So if they give her 20 years, she's probably looking at somewhere above 15 years getting out, or somewhere close to that 15-year mark.
But that I think, if I'm not mistaken, that 10-20 life law, if you use a gun in a felony, you get 10.
Mm-hmm.
If you fire it, you get 20, and if you kill somebody, you get life.
That's correct. And then what they do in that, I'm going to do some research to confirm it, but generally what we do down here is they start working in mitigation factors. The defense may use this E-Clause legal mumbo jumbo as a mitigating factor to try and reduce to some point the severity. Yes, she would get life, but what they'd be looking at is to see at what point could she get parole, rather than being life without parole. Could she get parole? Would they give her 20 years with a chance of getting, it's something that might be worked out. But again, it's got to depend on what the hell happened in all this, and the dynamics of it all.
Yeah, and I always think about the kids and that, you know, they're going to be seeing their mother if they're even allowed to have contact with her, you know, over a video conference, you know. You
Well,
know.
at this point, it's hard to say because the damage that was done to her case as a result of her taking the kids across the state was severe enough. It was heading in
Yeah.
that direction because the mother was not too pleased she took the children. And so it was
You're
going to
welcome. Yes.
be, the last I had heard, it was going to be supervised with a law enforcement officer acting as the observer. And now, you know, that's, you know, she's not going to be able to see the kids until they're adults and only if the kids were willing to see her. You know, her life is ruined no matter what. You know.
Everybody loses. Catherine said, "Thanks for doing this," and you're welcome, Catherine. But I'm telling you, thank you, Mark, for you know, having me on here because I really needed to vent. I mean, I'm real, and I'm still
Well,
upset.
I understand, and you know, you are someone that has first-hand knowledge of what makes Neely tick and how she got into the situation to begin with, and that is valuable for allowing people to understand, you know, just exactly what is going on here. We may not have all the answers yet, but at least we have a direction to look at as far as what her state of mind was and to see if down the line just exactly what caused all this.
Yeah, and I, you know, and that's why that was all because and you know, I never actually saw the documents, but the story she told about what happened with and it was DCF in Florida sounded like, you know, she had grounds for a case, and you know that's why we always said,
Mm-hmm.
look, you know, you have to get, you know, some attorney will take this, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and a real attorney, and you have to present these facts in a court, and you know that's how you have to go about it. But at the same time, you know, I'll always remember it, you know, because we were, you know, we were concerned, you know, that she needed competent legal help, and then, I mean, we just didn't know who these guys were or what they were about, and it sounded, you know, the way she was telling it, it sounded like, you know, Kirk's Law Corner. You know, I said, well, maybe this guy's an attorney, so
Mm-hmm.
if he helps her, fine. I just, yeah, I wasn't, you know, I didn't have knowledge of what exactly they were doing.
Well, this is what caused, I believe, these women to be wrapped up in this because uh, they had good promotional skills to sell themselves as some kind of professional, competent organization. And then you have someone like Randy who allegedly is kind of like a appointment setter. She goes out, finds these people, get them drawn in, and then she ships them off to Kirk and Chris for this ridiculous advice. And when everything goes wrong, they walk. There hasn't been one mention about Cynthia Abzug from this group since her legal troubles began after this incident with the kidnapping. And it's the same with the woman in Utah. There has not been a peep about her. And, you know, and these, you know, eventually the house of cards is going
Oh
to
my
fall
God.
on these people.
I'm just watching the chat room.
Yeah, so
Kirk
am
is
I.
blaming Chris's murder on the deep state. Wow, that's convenient. Yeah, and
That's
I mean,
that's ridiculous. I mean, he's grasping at straws. You know, he must not be the brightest bulb in the room to come up with that
no.
crap.
See,
Because,
they're so entrenched in these false positions,
mm-hmm.
just like Timothy, that they can't come out. You know, they've painted themselves into these corners, and they just have to keep going along with the BS. You know.
Yeah, they will not admit when they're wrong. This is the one thing you notice about these people. They ignore it when they're wrong. They come up with excuses after excuses.
Well,
And
we did with the show and with my own. You know, I'm a survivor of child sexual abuse. That's why I did the show,
mm-hmm.
and I did extensive, you know, education on the predator personality and the narcissist personality, and to the narcissist, they can't even admit to themselves that they're wrong. So, it seems like a lot of these fit, that type of profile, the, narcissistic predator profile and their actions, and they're just so, they can't even admit that to themselves, that they're wrong.
Yeah, well, that's been the case with Tim for over a decade. He starts out blaming everybody, right on up to the Vice President of the United States. He's fixated with Kim Pacazio, and
who's a good friend of his, or he's got one guy between him and the president.
And I believe that's the guy that's the postmaster of the world, who's another piece of work.
Yeah, that guy also has legal problems. Russell Gould, and you've got Good Vibes on there talking about Russell Gould, like the guy is like, according to the court paperwork, is I think his parents were trying to have him institutionalized.
Yeah, I remember that. I researched that, and that's exactly what they tried to do. They don't want anything to do with them.
Russell thinks he's the postmaster of the world, and Good Vibes he's a chiropractor, for God's sake. He's licensed by the state. He does medical procedures, and he's touting the praises of a guy that his parents were trying to put him in a mental institution. I mean, look at Field. I mean, a veteran, a Marine veteran, fighter pilot. I know what it takes to be an airline pilot, because I've always wanted to be one. Yeah, I didn't join the fire department, and oh my God, I mean, you have to be almost a genius to fly one of those planes, and to be that smart and get sucked in, and like you said before, he got, and Field was, a little bit out there before he met Tim. But I'll tell you what, when those two came together, it was just like a crash and burn. And I think Field knows this now. He must. I hope he knows it now.
Yeah, he's down as Stewart, having plenty of time to think of the situation he's in.
That was my fire department, Stewart Fire Rescue. He's wearing the ankle bracelet in my old zone, which is kind of strange.
Because I've been down to Stewart quite a few times, and
I guess if you have to be on an ankle bracelet, it's
he's on what they call a grade 3, which is the most severe supervision. That's usually reserved for murderers and stuff like that, and violent crime.
People that make death threats to
attorneys. he's really, they threw the book at him, literally.
An officer of the court. She is an officer of the court. Kim Pacazio is an officer of the court.
Yeah.
And how somebody who flew, a 747, can't figure that it's not a good idea to be threatening somebody like that on the internet. It boggles my mind. And I followed Field for a long time, and some of the information that he had about 9/11 was very good information.
Yeah, if he had stuck to his original theories about the aircraft, he would have been a lot better off. He started going down this road with Homestead, and that's what destroyed him. And this is another life that Homestead has got involved with. The person is destroyed, and Homestead just goes his merry way. And now the question is, why is Homestead hiding? And again, I have to, until I'm shown otherwise, have to believe that he may no longer be breathing, because he is not one to shut up. He's got to have his face out there on camera, and he's not going to confine himself to writing a blog and all this stuff. He's got it. Yeah, you never know, but it goes completely against his modus operandi, against his pattern of behavior. He likes to be out in the spotlight, getting attention, having his mug out there. And we're going on 6 months and he has vanished off the internet. So something is weird.
Maybe he just ran out of bullshit, Mark. That happened with that guy. I think I told you about him, who was a convicted sex offender that
Mm-hmm.
got off the registry and
Yeah.
was posing as a country singer and a karate teacher and everything else. And
Yeah.
we at the Channel 4 News in Nashville ended up
Mm-hmm.
outing him, and he's disappeared too. And I think he's the same way. Had to be out there, had made all these slanderous claims and videos about myself and my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And actually there are charges pending on him in the Commonwealth of Virginia for
Yeah, well, that's it. These people come and go. There was a woman down in Atlanta that I had to deal with for a couple of years, and she's vanished off the face of the earth. She went around bragging she was an engineer and all this stuff, and it turned out she was a telephone operator that got laid off when AT&T went automatic, and she just was some bitter old woman hiding out in a townhouse in the suburb of Atlanta. And, she's gone.
And you've got to use the legal system, and I hope, and I'll let you know when the Commonwealth attorney has all the information on this guy, and hopefully they're going to issue charges and he'll be extradited, because the moron called our locality here a cheeseburger place, telling them that my wife and I were pedophiles, and he was going to send them, and he was helping the police, let people know who we were. I mean, and then he put it on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just crazy. And he's run underground. Either that or he's worried about these charges. But I'll let you know on that. And that's what you got to do. And what I would recommend anybody that's involved with any of these people that have been they've committed crimes against, or what may be crimes, that they follow up with law enforcement and try to get charges filed on them.
Yeah.
Rather than, just let it go and write it off as a bad experience.
Yeah, because, you got to keep the pressure on. Our little group that we formed over the years, this is what we do. We just get together and we exchange information, expose these people, and sometimes it works. Unfortunately, we didn't do it in time to prevent this mess, but, it's going to take an incident like this to wake people up and say, these people are dangerous. A man has been killed because of his actions and the actions of others, and, it's got to stop.
There's some good questions in the chat room. It's like, she took Neely was armed when she took the kids. She's out on bond right now, I think. And how on earth did she get a firearm? Who got her the firearm? Just crazy. And obviously she snapped. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you're out on bond for 3 felonies, and you go travel through states to shoot somebody.
Well, they say hell hath no fury, and she was definitely a woman scorned in some fashion, and she just lost it. If that is what happened. Because again, we don't know exactly what happened. We can speculate until we're blue in the face, but at some point you have to wonder if this is part of it.
Well, and as delusional as she obviously was, if she perceived that their actions would prevented her permanently, and I think that would be a reasonable conclusion to come to if you take paperwork that they've given you and you go up and you kidnap your children because you have these legal papers that says you can do that, and it goes bad for you and you're looking at never seeing them again. I can see where that might be upsetting to somebody who, maybe she wasn't wrapped too tight to begin with, and it seems like
I think from the story I heard about why she lost her kids to begin with, there was a situation there. Now, again, like you know more about her situation than I do because I wasn't following it that closely. But, in most cases, CPS will take a child if they have reason to believe that they're in danger. Now,
Yeah.
at some point in the bureaucracy, CPS falls apart. Because one thing I have always wondered is what would have happened if CPS had intervened with Casey Anthony? Would that child be alive? Same is true of Haley Cummings. If CPS had gotten involved in that situation quickly enough, would that child be alive?
Yeah.
You know,
I know.
and
I know, Melissa. You don't. When you're out on bond, you no longer have a right to carry. Yeah, she's
mhm.
prohibited from.
Yeah,
I think
yeah, she should
using
not have had.
alcohol.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're under a lot of restrictions, and Phil McConnell's under the same restrictions. He cannot have alcohol. He cannot have a firearm.
Yeah.
And if the son has a firearm in the house, he has to surrender it. He can't even have a firearm. This is an extremely strict restriction that Field is under. And generally, you cannot have a firearm if you're out on bond for a capital crime, which kidnapping is. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Well,
there's,
it'll all come out, and I would
yeah,
love to know did they take money from her for this legal paperwork, and that'll be found out, and or
hmm
was there some other quid pro quo that was going on for the paperwork, and all that needs to come out because this is obvious insanity that's on a pretty large level, and a lot of people are exposed to it. I mean, then the thousands of people and thank goodness I keep an eye on Pendergrass, and I have actually both of them, and it seems like their viewership has dwindled, which is a good thing. But I mean, look at the people that are following Homestead and still, follow the task force and all that garbage, and a lot of these people are not wrapped too tight, obviously, and what part do they play in pushing them over the edge? I don't know, but it definitely needs to be investigated, and all the guilty parties need to be charged.
yeah. Well, what I'm going to do, John, I appreciate you calling in and everything. I'm going
Okay.
to give you a chance to catch your breath because I'm going to go ahead and continue on with the show. I've been ignoring my chatters here. They're
Go
probably
get
ready
them.
to kill me.
They're a great
And
bunch. I'll just pop back in the chat room where I'm normally at, Mark.
all right, and I appreciate you calling. And if you do have any more for me, I might
Yeah.
do a Friday murdathon and go over all the stuff again, plus anything I've learned in the interim. So we'll go with that.
All
Um,
right.
so, fireman,
Keep,
thank you again for your call, and you have a good night, and we'll see you in the chat.
all right, Mark. Take it easy.
All right, bye bye.
Bye bye.
All right, everybody. Well, that gave some insight as to what's been going on with Miss Neely. Um, now, again, I'm going to get back to the chat here. Now, for those of you who don't understand what's going on here, at 9 p.m. last night, uh, the Marion County Sheriff's Office, which is in Ocala, Florida, tweeted that a 51-year-old male had been found dead after a shooting and that a suspect was in custody. And then early this afternoon, the Marion County Sheriff's Department released the fact that Chris Hallett had been murdered and that Neely Blanchard, I believe her name is, was arrested in Georgia, and she is going to be extradited to Georgia at some point. Now, there are detectives in the Marion County Sheriff's Department who are going to go to Georgia and interview her to find find out as much as they can what happens. Now, there's the obvious question: is she going to plead the Fifth Amendment and request an immediate law or lawyer and hopefully not E-Claws, but a bar lawyer that everybody rants about, and so forth. Now, I don't know what my phone sounded like. What we did is I put Fireman on the speakerphone, so I don't know what quality came out. I'm sitting there holding the thing in my hand, so we did uh, that. Rebecca, I do not know if there is a mugshot yet. I tried doing some preliminary searches as best I could, and I have not found that out. Uh, that's one of the first things. I'm going to have to call up to Georgia and see if I can get a mugshot. Um, and some of you internet detectives out there can probably find it as well. Okay, I'm glad to hear that. As I used to hear Monty when he did this thing where he held the thing up to the microphone, and sometimes the quality's not there. When I wanted to put Miko on, we tried to do Skype, and I could not get Skype to work. I may have resolved that problem, but I didn't want to experiment with Skype tonight and run into the same problem. So this method that I use is probably the best for now. But it's unfortunate that this happened. I never, in my wildest dreams, thought that I would be doing a live stream talking about Chris Hallett being murdered. I was thinking it was going to be something else. Maybe a case like Cynthia Absug where it went wrong and the foster parents were killed, or something else. This blindsided me, to say the least, and I think it blindsided everyone that this happened. And it happened less than a 2-hour drive from my house. So this is going to be an easy case to cover because it's right up the street, so to speak. One of my dealership branches was in Ocala on 301, probably about a half-hour drive from Chris Hallett's house. So I'm familiar with the area. I've got a lot of connections up there with law enforcement. And so, this thing will work its way through the courts probably sometime this summer, depending on the coronavirus situation. There will be some kind of a trial, unless she pleads out. And, I'll do the best I can to cover this thing. I would have to get a hold of the courthouse up there and find out what their audio-video capabilities are, or if it's going to be one of these things where I just sit in court, jot things down on a piece of paper, and then do a stand-up outside the courthouse. But, that will be something that's down the road. But, we have now a deadly situation staring us in the face. Kirk needs to take the day off. He needs to go get drunk or whatever he does up there and start thinking about what has happened. It could have easily been him. He's done the same thing. He's the other 50% of this team. That woman over in Utah could be just as upset and go over and shoot him. This is nothing to joke about. This is a deadly situation. Somebody has gotten upset, mad, or circumstances have developed themselves to the point where somebody is dead by a homicide. A woman who is the mother of 2 children is sitting in a jail in Georgia waiting to be brought back to Florida. And like I was telling John, people's lives are ruined because of everything that's happened over the past couple of years. Uh, and the only thing is we're going to have to wait to see if someone makes a statement. There was a statement apparently that was supposed to come out by members of the family. Uh, and I'm bringing up the conversation I was talking about. And basically, uh, the woman, this quote, I'm the only one besides my daughter that knows the events. Yes, we're here. We are very traumatized. I will make a official statement after I talk to the family on what they want. So the thing I don't understand is why this guy is even bothering this family. I mean, this is, I don't know when this was posted, but it's like 12 hours after this incident happened, and this guy's pestering someone that is a witness to a homicide. This is as bad as some of the mainstream media that does this kind of crap. These people need to be left alone. They have suffered a horrific experience, and they need a chance to calm down and get their wits together. They're going to have to be interrogated by law enforcement so that everybody can get an idea just what the hell happened and why. And, to have some idiot that's nothing more than a blogger or whatever the hell he is bothering these people is just unconscionable. And she needs to knock it off. Leave the people alone. I sure as hell, I'm not going up there and banging doors asking the victims of a crime about it. It's not, I'm not a professional. I just don't get involved in stuff like that. I do everything through the courts and the clerk of the court. I get information that way as best I can. And through secondhand information like I did with John tonight. But you leave the family alone in something like this. It's just, yeah, Dodger, I agree. We have to find out, or, law enforcement is going to find out who the hell gave her that gun. Because you have interstate transportation of a firearm for the commission of a felony. Depending on the facts of the case. And if she is on house arrest wearing a GPS bracelet and she's in possession of a firearm, that alone is bad news. This is what Cynthia Ebzug is facing because she failed to appear in court and then she wound up being involved in an alleged attempted kidnapping and she was in possession of a firearm. So she's in serious trouble. Regardless, yes, it could have been Chris Hallett's gun. But, law enforcement is saying that she is a suspect, which logic dictates that she's the one that fired the gun, and the question is why? Did Chris say or do something that caused her to fear for her life and she just happened to have a gun on her and used it, or took the gun away from Chris Hallett and shot him? Again, you really don't want to speculate because it's the nature of those of us in the true crime media to speculate, but in the end, you're doing more harm than good. And so the best thing to do at this point is just wait for things to come out. Find out why a man's life was ended today, early yesterday. But again, I appreciate John coming in here because I was able to get some insight into her situation and to discuss the larger issues of people getting involved in areas that they really should not. Um, you've got this situation where um, a murder has happened because of the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force, the High Command, and E-Clause. Oh, welcome from Wales, the other side of the pond over there. Always glad to know that we've got an international audience here. Uh, okay, just yeah. Field McConnell is like I was saying, is on very strict supervised release, and it's one of the harshest that I've seen in a case like his. Um, it's reserved for usually for people that use firearms in the commission of a felony, or just flight risk, some reason to uh, have that type of restriction if they've been granted any kind of release. Now, what I'm doing is I am going to check and see if I check as often as I can. I'm going to check and see if there's anything new developing in the case. Because right now with the coronavirus, there isn't a whole heck of a lot going on. And there has been nothing filed since, when was the supplemental? August 18th is the last thing we've seen out of the court in Field's case. And we come down, there's nothing going on with Field McConnell. That case is basically on hold. And let's see. Going to try. Okay, when did this one come out? Okay, that's channel. Oh, it's funny as I'm familiar with Louds County. Now, Marion Oaks is actually a suburb of Ocala. Uh, it's a little bit like the Villages, but it's not quite. But it's its own separate municipality, which is why the sheriff got involved, because it's outside the city limits. And so the latest out of them is 4 hours ago. And Marion County Sheriff has latest, let's see, 7 hours ago is the last update from the Marion County Sheriff in regards to any reporting on the case. So it's going to take, waiting until, the information starts trickling in through official channels to see exactly what's going on here. Let's see. But yeah, it's going to be a bit. They've probably done an autopsy on him at the moment. And so the coroner's report will be sent over to the sheriff. It's going to have to go to the attorney's office to determine, the state attorney's office to see how they're going to handle her. And then, on top of everything else, we got the extradition. If she waives extradition, it's going to save everybody a lot of time. And so that's the key, is to find out when she will be coming back to Florida. Um, uh, well, firemen, the thing of it is everything's traceable. If Neely decides to talk and to vent about the occurrences, and she can say, well, Timmy did this, Randy did this, Kirk did this, and Chris did this, there's going to be some peripheral charges come out of all this, because she's going to be looking for mitigation. She's going to be looking for a way to lighten the load, as it was when this thing goes to trial. That's the woman who lived there. I don't know if Neely lived there or this other woman lived there. I was under the impression that Neely was still in Kentucky, and that she came back and forth. Yeah, anyone can ask a question. All right, let me take a look at the chat here, because I'm sitting too far back. Uh, Chris Hallett had children that he owed child support. That's one of the he got arrested because he wasn't paying child support. Um, Sharper's attack. Who I'm talking about is Neely Blanchard. She is alleged to have killed uh, Chris Hallett of E-Claws. And as to specific information about what happened, that is not available at the moment. Uh, Gonna have to wait for updates from the Marion County Sheriff's Department as to what exactly happened. Well, Divine, it's unfortunate that a death has occurred because of this situation. However specific the situation is, it's something that should not have happened, but it did, and now some people are going to have to. Oops, I hit the wrong. Some people are going to have to answer for what happened here. There shouldn't be, there should not have been a death as a result of these activities. The problem is it happened. Um, and now, whatever happens, happens. I mean, is there's going to be a grand jury due to what the thing is here, and somebody may or may not get charged. Some things never change. Nothing is going on. Strange. I'm looking on Twitter to see if anything is happening here. I don't see where there's anything going on. It's like everybody's just decided to keep quiet. Yeah, there is absolutely nothing going on with them. Well, Richard, we don't know what the situation is with the mother. I know she's an older woman. I don't know how old she was when she gave birth to Chris, but she is described as an older woman, and he was living with her. I think it's even her house. I don't know, but um, she now has to deal with that trauma, and we're in the middle of COVID, which doesn't help. So yeah, it's just families are going to be destroyed over this. Well, Timmy's been quiet for quite a long time. It's like I keep saying, the last verifiable piece of information we had concerning Tim Holmseth was 6 months ago, the end of May. And yes, there's been writings on his blog, but there's no confirmation that he was behind the writing. There's no proof that it was him writing. There's no live stream, live videos, current information, any of that. He's just vanished off the internet. So, and this would be one time where he should speak up because he was close to Chris Hallett. I mean, they were part of the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force, but who knows what's going to happen with all these people as everything sinks in. Now, Kirk Pendergrass is basically the only one to come out and say anything, and what he said was rather ridiculous. So, there's no telling what's going to happen with him as time goes forward here. I would hope that this wakes up law enforcement to speed up the investigations they have and put a stop to this before other lives are destroyed. And I would hope that this message gets up to Cynthia Abzug so that maybe she would start singing like a canary and tells what she knows about what was done to her, and she could testify against the survivors in this group who may be brought to justice not only for what they did to Cynthia, but as some kind of price to pay for what has happened to Chris Hallett. So, it's just weird. We've had deadly consequences now because of some insane conspiracy theory. Cynthia Absug, the last I heard, is wearing an ankle bracelet. She is under house arrest. She got out because of the coronavirus. And her trial is supposed to be in mid-February, the last I heard. And so we're going to see if this is going to have an effect on her case, and we're also going to see if there is going to be able to be some kind of trial, because we are in a situation where the coronavirus is getting worse. So, well, Catherine, we're going to see what happens up there. Now, they may protect the info, but on the other side of it, they're also want justice done, since, it's alleged that some kind of wrong has been done to Chris Hallett. They may um, offer some insight as to um, the circumstances. Stuff is going to come out at some point. Um, this is a capital crime. It's a homicide, and so it's going to be investigated. Um, well, Marion County is a strange county, uh, Levi, and I don't know how much of Chris's internet life played in his real life. Chris Hallett was a businessman. A lot of times, business people have a tendency to separate themselves, compartmentalize themselves between their private lives and their business. They try to keep the two apart, and this might have been the case here. They may have worked out a way to keep things separate, and the detective or anyone that was law enforcement and was excuse me, who was friend of Chris Hallett's may not have known about the extent of what he was doing on the internet. But the thing about it is I have friends with Marion County as well, so I'm going to be reaching out to some of the people I knew up there from when I was running my business in Ocala to see if I have any decent avenues of information to find out some background on how he operated in that county. The law enforcement is going to protect the case regardless, but sometimes a lot of background information will come out based on his impact with the community, his real estate business, and the way he made a living. I'm so slow. Well, when I'm 70 years old, we tendency to slow down. Um, so if you want to say I'm slow, I'm slow. But as I've said before, Sharp, I'm just a guy running a small YouTube channel. What I say here is my opinion. I don't profess to be the expert on anything. I'm going to see what I can do with what little resources I have and connections and networking I have with Marion County to find out some stuff. But we'll see what happens. But the important thing to realize here is that, the guy is dead. And there's a woman sitting in a Georgia jail charged with his murder. So we go from there. It's a case to follow through the legal system. If it goes to court, we'll follow it gavel to gavel and see how the case is resolved. Globe posted a local report on the incident. There's 2 or 3 different media outlets reporting on the incident. So the information is out there. Uh, if I heard correctly, the Orlando TV station completely screwed it up. Um, and I have yet to tune in to my local stations, which I really can't do while I'm on the air because of copyright issues, to find out exactly what they're reporting. I'm not sure, Laurie, because I hadn't really checked into what his occupation was, but I was under the impression that he had some kind of business operating in Florida. Now, this will come out as these things generally do because they're going to get into his background, depending on how big of a story this is in Marion County. Uh, to find out exactly what he did for a living in Marion County other than E-Clause. So that is one of these things that is going to be checked into. You're correct, Martha. Neely had on her car, or on a car she was driving, the E-Clause license plate. And she also did promotional posts on one of the E-Clause Facebook sites. The last that I've seen her posting anything on that particular E-Clause site was in September. As far as her Facebook page, she posted something, and let me bring that up. Or did I? Yes. This was posted on her Facebook page. I believe it was the 12th. And she said, she was saying that she is driving down to see Chris Hallett. So something happened between the time this post went up and the shooting to trigger all this. But, it's, I believe we probably beat this story to death right now because until further information comes out, there's really, there's not much else to discuss at this point. Um, Again, I am going to keep researching as best I can, following leads, and find out exactly what happened here and what is going to be in the future. My goodness, we're having a bit of a pissing match going on here. What the hell brought all this on? Let's. Well, of course I'm slow. That's why I've only got 900 plus subscribers. Everybody else has got 1 million subscribers, and I can't get beyond a certain level. So, and I'm not really paying that much attention. I've had a 14-hour day today. I'm exhausted. As much as I like the fact I got 51 viewers in here, I've got wheels up tomorrow morning. I got a couple more days of banging around. Uh, I really, if it had not been for this situation, I would not be on the air tonight. This is just one of these things that came up that I had to do something about. Well, there's plenty of gossip going around. Right now, everything is speculation. This has got to work its way through the process. Yeah, I didn't know your age, Divine, but I am kind of an old buzzard. I'm 70 years old this year. So I'm in the seventh decade of my existence on this planet. Yeah. It's kind of like an old car with a lot of miles on it. Things start breaking down. Well, Rebecca, that's something that I had heard somewhere. I don't know if it was on Miko's chat that there may have been self-defense involved. And again, this is where the details are going to have to come out of the sheriff's office. I am going to try and get the incident reports, which will answer some questions depending on what they're willing to release. Uh, at some point, the incident report's going to come out, arrest reports are going to come out as the legal wheels start to turn on this case, and over time, the pieces of the puzzle are going to come together, and we're going to have some understanding. Now, what's going to have to also come out is the statement that's going to be made by the family, whatever that might be, along with um, the other individual that was mentioned earlier, this Shannon person. Uh, so, indulge me a minute here. I'm going to copy something down because I want to see if there's been any traction. Okay, now let me see. Yeah, that's not what I wanted. Get on there. Oh, so she was a live-in girlfriend. Okay. I see. I thought he only had his mother living with him. So if he had a live-in girlfriend, it's a big house, though, from what I understand. So there's plenty of room for people. Okay. Alright, so far, I don't know where that message appeared because there's nothing here. So, alright. Alright, so I don't know where that conversation came from, but it's not showing up. So there's nothing yet. Yeah, I understand that. I didn't mean to say Neely was living there. I think Neely came down from Kentucky. Because she had mentioned in this very post that I had put up that she was driving to Florida. And that was, where's that? This slide. Now I gotta find the damn thing. Well, I lost the picture now. Hold on. Okay, now see this, this here, let me see if I can enlarge that. Because this is supposedly the last thing she posted on her Facebook, and it was November 12th at 9:46 p.m. Headed there now. Chris Hallett, my drive be like happy. So she came to Florida, according to this post, was in a good mood. But something happened between the 12th and the 15th where things went south. And so the question is, what happened? You know, why did the events transpire that happened, that caused this tragedy? You know, that's these questions that are going to have to be answered over the next several days. Yeah, what I did is I went into her Facebook and found this, and that, from what I understand, that is the very last thing she posted. Well, close to the last thing, I guess. That's the best I could find. There may be something after that, but it's what I was able to find. And like Sharp says, I'm slow, so I guess I missed the last thing. Um, but that's, what can I say? But we have had someone that's paid a price for his actions in an unexpected way. And now the other chapters are going to be written. I I have no idea, Laurie, what went on here. It's hard to say if drugs are involved or not. I just, again, we're getting into an area of speculation, which is probably not the best path to follow right now. We're basically going to have to wait and see where this takes us. Now, I will be doing a Friday murdathon, uh, probably starting at 9 o'clock. And if there is anything that I learn about what the hell happened, I will present it. And we'll discuss this some more and see if we can get some new and fresh information. I would like to thank everybody for showing up, and I would like to thank Fireman John for coming in, because he actually made the show. I don't know what I would have done if he hadn't come in. It made for a good background as to how Neely got involved with E-Claws and these other people and the events that have transpired up to today. Divine, I don't think this was planned. I think something happened, and we don't know what. And that's what's going to have to be answered. There's going to have to be answers to questions as to why something this tragic happened. Why somebody had to lose his life over this situation. Did it have to do with E-Claws and what they had done in the past, or was this something entirely new? Hard to know. But as the information trickles out, we are going to find out bit by bit by bit what happened. The puzzle pieces will come together, and the answers will be given. A trial will be held, possibly, if there's not a plea out, or, whatever. But the process is going to move forward, and I will stay with the process until its conclusions. And once again, I'm going to be talking about Timmy, because there is a connection here between Timmy and Chris Hallett, and possibly with Neely Blanchard as well. And it's just another case of where these lives get intertwined in this sheer nonsense. And I had warned in the past that something was going to happen. Didn't expect this, certainly, but I figured something was going to happen, and now it has. And now, is this going to be the house of cards where all this finally ends, and we see the end of the PPTF and the High Command and all this other nonsense? Or are they going to try and figure out a way to spin their way out of this? Time will tell. But I'm going to conclude this because I have got to get some rest. I got an early wake-up call. Got things I have to do to prepare for tomorrow. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I will see you Friday, and we'll see if we can do this again. This is William K. Murtaugh, Mert Witness 1. Have a good one, and good night.